Alright, once everything finishes, you get a restart button, and this should just bring up Ubuntu, and it should look exactly as if you were sitting on a piece of hardware with Ubuntu installed. And this is a full-blown Linux experience at this point. It should work with your networking, your USB devices, all of that. But it's also sandboxed, which can be nice. Alright, and I'm not going to wait for this, so I'm going to say machine and just do a shutdown. Or you know what, I'm just going to close this out. And then let's bring back our VirtualBox. So we just installed Linux demo, so let's go ahead and start that. And that should go ahead and boot up. And while it's doing this, let's go ahead and let's make this full screen mode. And in full screen mode, there's a hidden bar down here which you can hit to bring it back to where you have a menu bar, but it's usually pretty nice staying full screen. So here's our system coming up, and there we go. There's a Linux system. So Control-Alt-T brings up a window, and you can look at your processes and see your disks and your memory and all that other stuff. I don't have memory installed. Alright, and also Windows key P will bring up my display manager, and I'm going to make my display full size, so I'll apply that, keep this configuration, and so now I've got pretty much a Linux system, right? Even though I'm sitting on top of another operating system, my underlying system is Linux, but it could be Windows, could be OS X. But this is Ubuntu. So a few things that you might want to do in here. So one option is to set it up to work with 32-bit binaries. So this is going to come up, for example, if you're trying to run MPLAB. So let me bring up a web browser and download MPLAB. Misspelled download, doesn't matter. Go to download archives. And so if you're doing Engineering 270, we want you to install version 5.1 of MPLAB X. So that's usually out on page 7. Let's see, so MPLAB X, we want page 7. There's version 5.10. Now I'm installing it for Linux, regardless of what my underlying operating system is, because I'm running Linux here. I'm running it through a VirtualBox. So we'll go ahead and let that download. And again, you can fast forward here. And again, I'm going to Control-Alt-T to open up a terminal window. And I should have a downloads directory. And inside there, I'm getting this MPLAB installation. progress. So the other thing we're going to need to do as we're doing these installations is sudo. And so if you want to say sudo in a command, it'll ask you for a password. This is where you need the password that you specified when you set up your Linux install. And sudo lets you run a command as a super user. So I just did sudo bash. So I'm basically the root user. My home directory is /root. My whoami returns root, and I could do anything I wanted on the system right now. So we're not really going to live in bash as the super user. We're going to do individual commands, starting with the installation of MPLAB. Well, I don't know if we need to be sudo to install MPLAB, but we will for some other things. So just about done with the install. There we go. So now I've got a tar file, so I'm going to say tar xvf and the name of the tar file, and that creates an installer. And I'm going to say sudo MPLAB. So I'm going to do sudo sh./MPLAB, and that will very quickly fail. Because it's looking for 32-bit libraries and we don't find those, right? So if you're on iOS, I think you run into a similar situation. So let me show you the 3 magic commands that you're going to use to get 32 support. So sudo dpackage --add architecture space i386. Alright, so let me make this bigger. Let's see. Alright, so here's our first command, sudo dpackage --add architecture i386. And then we're going to say sudo apt update. And you generally want to do this at least once after you install the system, but usually before you install new packages, do an update to set up the latest archives. And this takes a little bit of time. And then sudo apt install libgl1 :i386 and say Y uppercase for yes. You do want to install this. And this will take a little bit of time. Alright, there we go. So those 3 commands were sudo dpackage add, sudo apt update, and sudo apt install. And now I'm going to go ahead and rerun sudo sh and the MPLAB installer. And this time it finds the 32-bit libraries. So now MPLAB will do its installation process. And this also takes a few minutes. Close out this window in the back. We can close out this window. And there we go. Got the installer running. We'll say next. We'll accept the license agreement. We'll take default settings. We'll install MPLAB X IDE. I won't bother with IPE. I'll turn off anonymous information gathering. I'll say next. It'll install. Not too long of a process here until the end. once this is done, MPLAB should come up and run. So I don't know what other 32-bit packages this will help with, but I was mainly digging into this for MPLAB for running it under VirtualBox/Linux, and this should work well. Don't worry about that. Don't worry about that. And this is offering to take you to web pages for additional downloads. We'll just skip all of those and say finish. And there we go. We've got MPLAB installed. And now I can go ahead and run this. So I could come up here and try to find it, or I can say MPLAB. And it opens up and you're good to go. And this is the right version for Engineering 270, so you should be all set. We'll just let it get to its splash screen, its opening window, and there we go. We're all good to go. Cool. Alright, so next videos we'll talk about how to set up a shared clipboard and how to set up a shared drive. But to get you on the air, this is all you need. And remember, you do have access to a web browser here, and so if you want to download, the labs from Canvas and things like that, you can do it through your VirtualBox system. All right, thanks.